All right, folks. Thanks for checking out the video. I want to play a clip today from Tucker Carlson where he talks about transgenderism being America's fastest growing religion. So I'm going to play the clip and then I'll give some commentary on it throughout. Now he touches on something that I've, long thought that for so many people on the left in America today, their politics is their religion. Okay, for most people on the right, now you have some people who are not religious on the right, and that's a fact. But for a lot of people on the right, they have their religion. They pray and they spend their time working, raising their family, trying to be a good person. But for most people on the left, they're not religious in the traditional sense. Their politics is their religion. So I'm going to play the clip and then we'll talk a little bit about it. So here's Tucker.
Good evening and welcome to a special edition of Tucker Carlson Tonight. Happy Good Friday. This is the saddest and at the same time by far the most hopeful day on the Christian calendar. There was a time not so long ago when the overwhelming majority of Americans observed Good Friday. They got up, they went to church, they talked about it at the office and at dinner that night. It was part of their culture. That's no longer true. Tonight, you wonder how many Americans even know it's Good Friday. So after hundreds of years, this has finally become a non-Christian country. But it's not a secular country. You sometimes hear people call it that, but they are wrong. There are no secular countries. Every country has a religion because every person has a religion, even if it's atheism. Everybody worships something. We're born that way. We can't get away from it. So what is America's religion now? Well, as it happens, we have video. This is from St. Mark's Lutheran Church in Fargo, North Dakota. It was taken on April 2nd. That was the first.
So what you're about to see here has to be the most bizarre church service that I've ever seen. I don't know what kind of people go to this kind of church, but watch this.
Sunday after the mass killing in Nashville, in which 3 adults and 3 children were murdered at a Christian school for being Christians. In the old America, Christian pastors would have preached about this. They would have acknowledged the evil on display, and they would have prayed for those who'd been killed. A form of that is still happening today, but the roles have been inverted. In America's new religion, the victims are not the children who died in Nashville. The victim is the woman who killed them. Because Audrey Hale called herself transgender, she was, by definition, a holy martyr. Watch this pastor in a formerly Christian church compare Audrey Hale to Jesus.
Leaders were looking for any excuse, valid or not, to crucify Jesus. And they found that reason. It's baffling to me that someone's existence can be so threatening that people decide they need to be controlled, that they need to have.
She's not talking about the existence of the 6 innocent people who this so-called transgender person murdered. She's talking about the person that did the murdering.
Have laws made against them, or even worse, that the people that they find to be so threatening should die.
So Audrey Hale's very existence as a transgender person was so threatening to authorities that they killed her, just as the Pharisees killed Jesus. Her death had nothing to do with the fact she just murdered 6 people. That was the pastor's sermon at St. Mark's in Fargo. So it's pretty clear that St. Mark's Lutheran Church is no longer a Christian church. So what is it now? Well, it's a transgenderist church, one of many. Transgenderism is this country's fastest growing religion. Like many faiths, its theology features a supernatural transfiguration, the moment a person is transmogrified from one sex to another. Converts to this faith abandon their old lives and embrace an entirely new sex. Former identities no longer exist. They're dead names. But here's one big difference. Transgenderists do not believe in the God of monotheism. They believe that they themselves are God with the power to control nature. And if you think about it, this should be a concern because it's a recipe for extremism.
And that's a very good point there. These as I said, these so-called transgender people are playing God. Okay, you're a male. No, I'm a female. You're female. No, I'm a male. I'm going to override biology. I'm going to override the way I was created to make me the way I think I should be. That's the mindset of these people.
People who believe that they're God tend to react very badly when told that they're not. So if you're running the government and you wanted to prevent violence in your own country, you would be very concerned about the growth of a cult like this. But the Biden administration is not concerned at all. In fact, it is cheering this cult on. Watch Joe Biden's spokeswoman, just days after the massacre of children in Nashville, explain that when transgenderists, quote, fight back, she approves.
14 states have now banned gender-affirming health care, while some of these laws are currently blocked by courts.
Okay, now this is a term that we hear a lot, this so-called gender affirming care. Now this is not medical care in the way you or I would think of medical care, right? Maybe somebody has an infection, they take antibiotics, they get better. If you're bleeding profusely, you need to stop the bleeding to live. Or maybe you have a somebody has a tumor and they need to have to get the tumor removed. Uh, they have a broken bone, they need to wear a cast, something like that. What she's referring to, of course, are elective cosmetic procedures or elective hormone therapies. That's what she's referring to, not medical care in the traditional sense.
This is a dangerous attack. This is awful news. Let's be very clear about that. LGBTQI plus kids are resilient. They are fierce. They fight back. They're not going anywhere. And we have their back. This administration has their back.
They are fierce. They fight back. This administration has back. So this is coming on the heels just days after a massacre in which children were murdered.
And one thing to call out here too is, do you notice how passionate she was, how serious she was about that? She didn't sound that passionate about all of the people affected by the environmental disaster that happened in Ohio. That's out of the news now. That's essentially been memory hold. She didn't sound that passionate about that, but this she's deadly serious about. Now think about it for a second. If God forbid, Trump was president and his press secretary talked about some conservative group fighting back, well, that would be a call to violence. That would be beyond the pale. So just think about that.
Apparently in response to laws against chemical and surgical castration of children. So the White House is not decrying that. The White House is endorsing it as clearly as it possibly could. And that's why no one from the Biden White House is visiting the grieving Christian families in Nashville. Instead, today, Kamala Harris went to Nashville to promote 3 Democratic Party legislators who led a riot at the State House, a riot designed to promote, yes, the cult of transgenderism. So consider the message here. We're on your side, and not only we're on your side, you, the mentally ill who may be armed, are the victims, and you are being genocided. Your very existence is at stake. In other words, making paranoid people on the edge more paranoid. So fight back. You are fierce. This is not the message to give to religious nuts with weapons, and particularly not this group of religious nuts with weapons. This is a group that has for years been committing acts of violence at rates much higher than you would expect across a cross-section of the population. To give a few examples, last year a trans girl tried to assassinate a justice, Brett Kavanaugh, at his home. Then a self-described not-binary shooter, also a member of the cult, murdered 5 people at a Colorado nightclub. In 2019, a trans teenager shot 9 people in a high school, killing 1. That was in Denver. In 2018, a mentally ill transgenderist shot up a Rite Aid distribution center in Aberdeen, Maryland. That massacre killed 4. So you can
Now that's very interesting because, and he makes a great point prior to that about, do you hear the language that a lot of these people on the left use, that people like Matt Walsh and others are, they're calling for some transgender genocide and this and that. Now, if that's not a call to violence, then nothing is. And of course, nobody's calling for that. Nobody's calling for that.
see where this is going, and you shouldn't be surprised by it. Mental illness leads to violence. This is a species of mental illness, and there's no mental illness greater than the delusion that you are God. And that's exactly what this cult teaches its adherents. You are God. You can change nature with your will, change biology. Now, with the endorsement of the Biden administration, the terrorism that is the inevitable result of this belief system is accelerating. Police just arrested a man called William Whitworth. He's a transgenderist, uses the name of Lily, in the state of Colorado. Apparently he had a kill list and a manifesto. He was planning to attack 3 schools and churches, and apparently some talk show hosts too. So it would be nice to see this manifesto or the kill list, but of course you can't see it because the authorities.
Okay, and that's another thing. Have we seen the manifesto from not only this guy but the Nashville shooter? To my knowledge, we still haven't seen it yet. You know, when that guy shot up the grocery store up in Buffalo, the guy that was going out to kill black people, we got that manifesto pretty quickly. So, they know that people's memories are short and the news cycle moves on, and I'm sure eventually we will get that manifesto, but it's not going to have the same impact it would have if it would have come out a lot sooner. And that's being done intentionally. Sad.
Authorities are, as they have in Nashville, hiding it. Now, why are they hiding it? Because they have to. When your religious views violate the unyielding laws of nature itself, you have no choice but to hide things. You have to. Deception is mandatory, and it will soon be reflected in the law. That is already happening in Canada, which is in some sense the new California. If you want to know our future, look north, not west. In Canada, transgenderism will soon be the justification for suspending all freedom of speech. A new law will ban speech that offends transgenderists near drag performances. So you can't complain. Watch.
The drag communities are done waiting for this government to take real action in effective ways, and so is the Ontario NDP.
Now, this isn't Canada, as he said, but look at these people here. Protect 2SLGBTQI plus communities. What the hell does that even mean?
The proposed legislation does 2 things, and I will go through them. Firstly, it enables the Attorney General to create a 2S LGBTQI plus community safety zone to prohibit within 100 meters of the property any homophobic, transphobic act of intimidation, threat, offensive threats, offensive remarks, protest, disturbance, and distribution of hate propaganda within the meaning of the criminal code. It also comes with it a penalty of $25,000 if prosecuted successfully.
So here's a rule of thumb that is worth tacking on your refrigerator because it explains so much. If the people who claim to be victims are working to oppress you, they're not actually victims. They are oppressors.
And that's a very good point right there. Geez, you talk about something Orwellian there, and as he says, how far behind could we be here to have things like that? That you can't even make an argument against transgenderism within, as they said, 100 meters of some event or the other. It's just really sad. It's really sad. Canada's really gone downhill really quick ever since the end of the Stephen Harper era there. So now this clip goes on for a little bit. I'll post a link to it. So if you want to watch the rest of it, you can if you haven't seen it yet. But I'm definitely interested in your thoughts. What do you think about leftism being a religion for those people, taking up that aspect of their life? So let me know what you all think. And as always, we'll see you on the next one.